There's been a lot of talk about the Planetary Parade of 2025. And while there is a lot of factual information going around about this, there's also some misinformation. In this video today, we're going to talk about the information being given, what is correct, what is not correct, as well as these energies from an astrological point of view, what they represent, and how we can best capitalize on them moving forward in order to get the most out of this beautiful alignment of energies. Now, the misinformation that's being shared here has to do with the alignment of these planets. They're not lined up single file as many of these beautiful photos that you find online would have you believe, but rather they are dispersed along what we in astrology call the ecliptic line or the ecliptic plane. This imaginary line or plane is circular, and we can imagine that it looks very similar to the photos that I'm sharing with you on the screen right now. It has to do with the orbits of the Earth, the Sun, and the planets as they move through the heavens and the path that they follow along their orbit. So as we're looking at this plane, we can see here that the planets are found all along different lines within this plane, and all of these lines are representing the orbits and the elliptical path or the ecliptic path of the different planets. Each planet is found at a different point along this path. When we're looking at the particular planets that are involved in this planetary parade, we can see that Venus is located in one sign, the sign of Pisces, while Mars is located in another sign, Cancer, Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, and Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So Saturn and Venus are actually quite close together here. Mars and Jupiter are more spread apart. And then we also have Neptune and Uranus, who are not who are not visible to the naked eye, but who can be viewed with a telescope or with a healthy dose of LSD. And we have Uranus currently in the sign of Taurus, and Neptune also in the sign of Pisces. So we have quite a bit of action going on in the Pisces area. This is where we're seeing more of that physical type of alignment if we were able to view all these planets with the naked eye. Everyone else is in a different constellation or aligned with a different constellation within their ecliptic path. And now we're going to get into sort of the meat of this from an astrological point of view. And we're going to talk about the connections that they are making to each other, which is essentially a series of sextiles, beginning with Mercury. And Mercury is at the point that we're going to be beginning this video, which is the 26th of January at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So as Mercury continues to move, Mercury is actually going to move out of this series of alignments. As he moves into the sign of Aquarius, Mercury is going to move into Aquarius and hit that 0 degree of Aquarius point on the 27th. So that's going to be breaking up one aspect of this, but we're still going to see a lot of these planets remaining connected through the beginning of February. Now, Mercury at that 27 degree point of Capricorn is very, very close to Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius, and the Sun, who is located on the 26th at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So as Mercury is here shining his light, he is connecting with the energy of Pluto and also the energy of the Sun, which is making Mercury, like, the word that's coming to mind right now is effervescent. Mercury is really expanding with that powerful energy of Pluto as well as the Sun. And so this is giving our words and our thoughts an immense amount of power. As we move along here, we have Mercury in a loose sextile to the next player in this equation, which is Venus within the sign of Pisces. So we have Venus at 23 degrees of Pisces. Now, she is not alone either. Venus is in a loose conjunction to the North Node and Neptune. Neptune being at 27 degrees of Pisces, and the North Node being at 28 degrees of Pisces. And we also have Saturn here. And Saturn is at 16 degrees of Pisces. So not as close to this conversation, but still within earshot, I guess you could say, right? If they were all having a conversation, Saturn would be able to hear the conversation. Maybe not make out every single word, but Saturn would get the gist and Saturn would get the nuance. And Saturn's energy would be able to influence the conversation because he would be within the toroidal field, we could say, or within the field of influence of these planets. So that's a really great way to be able to look at these energies. Now with Venus here in Pisces, in this close conversation with the North Node as well as Neptune. And they're going to be within, this is a conversation that is ongoing here between Venus, the North Node, and Neptune. And we're going to see and talk about more on this channel how these energies continue to evolve. We have the North Node and Neptune moving to an exact conjunction, which is going to occur on the 7th of February. And we have Venus and Saturn who are moving into and going to be in a conjunction with the North Node as well as we move further along here in this trajectory. So a lot of really exciting energy going on here. There's a lot of dynamic conversation between Saturn, Venus, Neptune, and the North Node. And this is all about pushing us deeper into our path, onto our purpose, aligning us with our soul, and having that ability to dream that big dream. Pisces energy is very idealistic, right? It's very romantic. It's very creative. It is very inspired. Now with Saturn here, this is going to actually help us bring more of that into form, as well as the connections to the other planets here, particularly when we're talking about Mars, which is the planet of action. And we're going to get to Mars a little bit further down the line here. So there is this energy of bringing things to a concrete awareness or action point, but Venus here is more about the inspiration. She's more about generating the idea, generating the excitement, generating the dream. And now as we continue to move to the next sextile here, and sextiles are 60-degree angles, by the way. These are angles of intense stimulation. They're related to actually sort of mercurial energy, which is fun because Mercury is part of this series of sextiles here. And Uranus actually happens to be the higher octave of Mercury, as many astrologers consider it. So like the higher mind, the super conscious mind. So there's a lot of downloads streaming in here. There's a lot of stimulation, and there's a lot that is being stirred up and sort of spirit showing me kind of like recalibrated within us to calibrate us more to spirit showing me. It's sort of like if you've ever downloaded an app on your phone of a compass. I've never actually used a real compass, or maybe I think I did with like a nature program when I was very young, but it's been a long time. But I've used one on my phone. All right, technological age, right? And with certain apps that I had to calibrate the compass, right? The app would say, turn your phone this way and then turn it that way and then move it back and forth. And there was like a series of motions I had to go through in order to calibrate that compass. And Spirit's saying this is what's happening right now as these planets are coming into alignment. There is a calibration happening between all of these planets. So they are assisting us in coming into internal alignment. And that internal alignment will be followed by external alignment. So Uranus here is really bringing in the Akashic records. It's bringing in, and what I mean by that is different versions of us, different memories from past lifetimes, different soul gifts, like bringing a lot of that wisdom and that knowledge, even if we don't realize it, those memories and that memory field that is going to be of assistance to us as we're moving forward here, particularly in retrograde. Uranus is in retrograde. So we have Venus in a 60-degree angle. And this one is exact, 23 degrees of Pisces to 23 degrees of Taurus to Uranus. That's what's bringing Uranus into this conversation for people who I might have lost here if I haven't stated that explicitly. In retrograde. So really bringing us back through those past lifetimes, through that past information, so that we can synthesize that into something that is useful to us now. So this really feels like we said, those past soul gifts and abilities coming online, any of those energies that we need to call upon in order to become more whole and unified within the version of ourselves, of our consciousness that is having this experience right now. So this is big, big stuff with Uranus here. Uranus also represents timelines. So this is where we're shifting through those timelines. Pluto in Aquarius is connected to the timelines in the Akashic as well. So this is really big energy. And even when we're working with Venus and Neptune in that North Node and Saturn in Pisces, this is soul contracts. This is a lot of that energy as well of the past, of what we're completing, the clearing out, the finishing. So there's like a flushing out and a calling in that's happening for us right now. Now, as we continue on, Uranus is in a 60-degree angle to Mars in Cancer. They're actually 1 degree off of an exact 60-degree orb, with Mars at 22 degrees of Cancer, also in retrograde, although his retrograde is going to be finishing up on the 23rd of February, and then his shadow period where he returns to where he started the retrograde, that is going to wrap up on the 1st of May, which is going to be a dynamic day as well. We'll get into that more as we get to that point, but Uranus is going to be very involved in the dynamic energies going on there. So we have Mars bringing in that action, right? But also in Cancer, bringing in that deep emotionality, what we feel, what we know with our body, right? When our emotions speak to us through our body. So this is bringing in that deep body intuition and that deep visceral energy how can I even explain what I'm feeling from this right now? It's like anchoring that all into the physical body and feeling that in a way that where we're feeling it and we're utilizing the emotion of that to manifest by literally having that feeling of what it is that we're creating vibrating through our cellular matrix. That's the way that spirit is putting it. And that is vibrating out into the universe. So to sum this all up, this planetary parade is allowing us to create some massive change and shifts in our reality by aligning and calibrating ourselves to our highest timeline. When we were using the compass analogy, that's what spirit was trying to bring through there. Sometimes I get stuff coming in faster than I can speak and it gets a little bit confused. So if you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, you're not. Like, I'm not for everybody because of that. You got to be able to kind of follow. And the dots kind of go all over the place, sort of like some of these planets are right now. So essentially, this whole planetary parade, these energies are calibrating our internal compass so that it will point toward our true north. And I love how, see the star right here, the North Star almost, it looks like Polaris over the Cancer there. Isn't that interesting how that's what was sort of pointed to when I was saying that? I love these none of this stuff is an accident in my opinion. So it's like calibrating us toward that true north, right? So that we can, from this point forward, always know that true north, always follow it. And like Spirit said, with that Mars and Cancer energy right now, we're going to feel it in our bodies. So pay attention to the way your body is right now sort of programming or reprogramming itself or making itself known to you, the way that your intuition wants to speak to you through your body, the way that it wants to move through you, the way emotion wants to move through you. We want to keep everything as open and flowing, not just during this planetary parade, during this new moon in Aquarius, and that's going to be insane. I don't know if I mentioned that the new moon in Aquarius is also going to happen the day before Uranus stations direct, Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius. So essentially Uranus's energy is going to be focused during that new moon. And of course the day after and for a few days as well, because Uranus moves slowly. That means when it begins stationing to appear to change direction in the sky from our position on Earth, our viewing point on Earth, it's a slow process. So it doesn't all happen in a second or even a day. It takes many days for this process to occur. So that energy is really focusing. Uranus is really, you can imagine it almost like a laser beam that's illuminating our highest timeline, illuminating some epiphany, some realization, something that we missed, and sort of like channeling, allowing us to channel our energy toward where it is that we're going. So really big, beautiful stuff, you guys. Go out, check it out, see it with your physical eyes. There is something powerful that happens when we view something, when we connect to it physically, all right? And just know that there are streams of energy being emitted from these planets that are interacting with our own cellular biology. All right, I'm learning more about this as I'm beginning to study human design a little bit as well. I call it like the neutrino streams. These streams of information essentially coming through that are constantly moving through space, being filtered through these planets, coming and filtering through us. When we observe them physically, this becomes even more powerful. And our connection to this energy becomes even more powerful. So go out, take a look. If you've got a telescope, that would be even better. If you don't, then just see what you can see. Just know that Neptune is up there. Know that Uranus is up there, even if you cannot see them. Even if you're in a part of the world where you're not able to see this, say you're in the southern hemisphere, you can feel it. Connect with the energy of the planets on that level of consciousness, because we're all consciousness. This is all consciousness. What are these planets doing? They're expanding our consciousness, right? This channel before it was called Dark Side of the Moon Tarot and Astrology was called Cosmic Consciousness with Kassia. That's what this is all about. Developing that cosmic consciousness, or really getting back in touch with it, right? Because it's always been there. It's just been buried under all these layers of programming, all these layers of forgetfulness. So we can look at this planetary parade in one sense as just yet another beautiful example of how the heavens are working together to orchestrate this process of remembering. All right. I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more as we continue to move along about the new moon in Aquarius that is upcoming, about anything else that we referenced, Venus is getting ready to go retrograde. Mercury is getting ready to go to retrograde. All right. I believe it's on the 29th that Venus enters her shadow period for her retrograde. That's going to begin at 10 degrees of Aries on the 1st of March. All right. And Mercury is going to be going on the 15th of March. So not that long after. We're going to talk about all of that and so much more, as well as, of course, read some tarot, as the name of this channel suggests. So if you are new, you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and join the tribe. We look forward to having you here. Reach out to me if you want any assistance. I offer all kinds of different stuff, and it's all in the description box below, and it's all to help you get closer to you, tap into your own intuition, become your own oracle, your own healer, your own guide, and set yourself free. That's what I'm all about. That's what this ascension process is all about. It's about liberating ourselves, stepping into our sovereignty, remembering that we are God, we are sovereign, and above all else, we are free. I guess above all else would come we are God, right? But I don't know. I'm big on the freedom piece, so it's all perspective, right? All right. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.